So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on April 9th, 2008. What red-blooded man's heart doesn't start racing at the Speed Racer theme, I ask you? Although, is it just me or, in practice, didn't it sound better 30 years ago? I don't know. It doesn't seem quite as fast as I remembered it. My guest today is part of the revival of the immortal Speed Racer. He is comic book writer Arie Kaplan, and with the release of the Wachowski brothers' big-screen, live-action adaptation of the Japanese anime classic, boy, there's a long sentence, huh? I thought it would be fun to talk a little speed today. We'll also touch on some of Arie's other work. He's a regular contributor to Mad Magazine, for example, and also wrote the nonfiction book, Masters of the Comic Book Universe Revealed. Arie Kaplan, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks. Great to be here.
Glad to have you. Sorry for a little snafu a minute ago, but we're delighted you could join us.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be here. Thanks.
You tell me, is it just me, or does that song seem cooler in your memory than it is in reality?
Yeah, no, the 5-year-old me, it definitely holds a special place in my heart for the 5-year-old me. The adult me, well, it holds a special place in my heart for the 5-year-old me, let's just say that. But it's, it's simple. It's simple. It's very simplistic in the way that, like, a lot of the stuff from your childhood, the sort of pop culture ephemera from your childhood, the sort of the flotsam and jetsam from your childhood just sort of floats around rattles around in the back of your head and sort of occupies a special place. But I think it honestly occupies that special place for a reason, and it just does have this kind of jangly sort of surf rock kind of quality to it, this kind of like 60s pop kind of quality to it that sort of resonates in a kind of a fun way, and there's nothing cerebral about it, but there doesn't have to be.
No, it's funny. My wife saw the trailer about 2 weeks ago for the movie, and she said, "Oh, who would care about that?" And I just looked at her with just disgust. It was like, are you out of your mind? Who wouldn't care about that?
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's Speed Racer, damn it.
Yeah.
Arie, what do you, I'm putting you in an awkward position here because you're writing a comic book, but
yeah.
That's the price we pay. But, what is the appeal of Speed Racer today? It's a 40-year-old cartoon series.
Okay, well, it's a great question you asked, Bob, because actually that's one of the challenges in writing this series. Because, the miniseries that I wrote was called Speed Racer Chronicles of the Racer. And the reason it's called Chronicles of the Racer is because basically the miniseries is about, the premise is that Speed is being followed and pursued. He's being pursued by a mysterious carjacker. He doesn't know what's happening to him, and he doesn't know who this guy is. The guy seems to know more about his family history and his legacy than he does. And he discovers, Pops, his father, tells him that he's actually part of a long line of racers. He's the latest in a long line of racers that like he's sort of the chosen one, and in every generation there's one person in the family who's got the requisite strength and agility and speed to outrace the evils of the world. And so we alternate between the story of the present-day racer, which is Speed, and one of his ancestors. And so I picked the four past racers that I thought were the most dramatic, and I thought I had the most dramatic potential and were the most iconic for this miniseries. And so we see the past racers in ancient Rome and medieval England and the Golden Age of piracy and the Old West, because those are really the most iconic. You see ancient Roman charioteer Swiftus Romulus in issue 1, and you see the medieval knight Sprint Rackham in issue 2, and you see the pirate king Reed Saber in issue 3, and then in issue 4, the final one, which just came out today, April 9th, you see the Navajo bounty hunter Sleek Raven. And each one of them sort of, there's one of the big themes of the miniseries is the more things change, the more they stay the same. And so you see a lot of parallels between what's happening in the past and what's happening in the present. And each one of these past racers has their own version of the Mach 5. Although in issues 2 through 4, it's sort of a fake-out, and it's kind of a guessing game that I'm playing with the readers, because at first you think it's fairly obvious what the Mach 5 is. I mean, in issue 1, Swiftus Romulus, the charioteer, has his chariot, the Marcus 5, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a pimped-out chariot, and it's really obvious that that's his Mach 5. It's got all these levers, and you can pull them, and hydraulics pop out, and buzzsaws pop out and things like that. But in issue 2, for example, Sprint Rackham has a horse named McFife, and you think that that's his Mach 5. But then the wizard Merlin, who's the inspiration for the legendary Merlin, it's implied that a lot of the characters in the story were the inspiration for the Arthurian legend. He gives him a suit of super armor, and the suit is designed, it looks visually a lot like the Mach 5, and it's made of metal like the Mach 5, and it looks, and it has a lot of the same features of the Mach 5, and it's called the Mage 5. And so the fake out is that you think it's the horse, and then it turns out to be the suit. Because the horse it's not like, you could see hydraulics popping out of the horse or anything like that. I mean, I guess they could pop out of the saddle or whatever, but, I thought it would be cooler if I did sort of an homage to 60s Iron Man stories, which is sort of what issue 2 is. Issue 2 is an homage to a lot of different things. And, I mean, there's tons of Easter eggs layered throughout each issue, but one of the things that I'm sort of referencing is kind of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Don Heck Iron Man stories in issue 2.
Now, was all of this stuff in the cartoon series? 'Cause, I mean, I admit, my memory is faulty on this. I just remember...
Sure.
Lots of races, and who was that Racer X guy?
Okay.
I don't remember any of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I was going off on a tangent a little bit. I mean, they're still germane to the topic, but here's the thing. I was kind of in a roundabout way answering one of your earlier questions, which was you were saying, how do you make it relevant? What is there of the TV show? And I was saying that, the TV show theme song wasn't that cerebral, or wasn't that much to it, et cetera. Well, I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I honestly made up for the miniseries, because as much as 5-year-old me loved the TV show, and as much as I still do love the TV show, I mean, I got all the DVDs to research them for the show. As much as I immersed myself in Speed Racer lore to write this miniseries, I still had to sort of think, how do I make this more of a character, and how do I make this more iconic? And my big solution was to make it a legacy character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Sort of you had with it.
I was going to say, you had to stretch it a bit. You had.
Yeah, well, yeah, and not only that, but also to do with it what let's see, how do I put this? A lot of great stories in comics, in science fiction, and fantasy have what I like to call a story generator, like I think in the Fantastic Four, the story generator is that Reed Richards is a genius, okay? And what I mean by that is that Reed Richards is a genius. So Reed Richards being a genius, that gets them into any sort of situation. Like there's so many story possibilities because he's such a genius. That's what got them in that rocket, that got them into outer space, that got them doused with cosmic rays, that made them become the Fantastic Four in the first place. That's what gets them into the negative zone where they encounter the Inhumans. That's what gets them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what gets them into. I think it's the blue side of the moon or whatever. That's what gets them on Galactus's radar. That's what, you know, all this stuff that happens to them is because Reed Richards has got this giant noggin, you know. And that's in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there's a hellmouth. The school was built over Sunnydale is built over a hellmouth, and so all these creatures can are gravitated towards the hellmouth and pop out of the hellmouth at any time. And the X-Files themselves are the story generator because like each one of the X-Files is about some different monster or creature or horrible thing that slices and dices people in the middle of the night, and so that there's Scully and Mulder have to investigate it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So my big challenge was thinking, okay, honestly, it's this really fun series, and it's an early example of a really successful crossover of Japanese anime and manga that did really well crossing over towards American audiences. But what is it about this series that I can make really iconic and really universal, and that I can make something that can stand the test of time, and that can have a built-in story generator, and that can that can generate more stories, you know? And so I thought a couple of different things. First of all, when you turn the character into a legacy character, then you can have anyone can be a racer. Sort of like how when John Broome and Gil Kane and Julius Schwartz refashioned Green Lantern in the 50s, you know. Basically what they were doing was they were taking Martin Odell and Bill Finger's original Green Lantern character of Alan Scott from the 40s and turning that into a legacy character and making Hal Jordan part of the Green Lantern Corps with the Guardians of the Universe and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're saying that basically a piece of broccoli with a Green Lantern symbol on its chest can be a Green Lantern, can be an interplanetary cop, you know?
Right.
Like my stapler, if it has a ring, can be a Green Lantern. You know, it can be like the Green Lantern of Planet Blaxon 6 or whatever, you know? That opens that concept up to so many story possibilities. Like this brownie on the plate in front of me, it could be possibly a Green Lantern. So anyway, my point is that like if you I'm fascinated by the concept of like I'm just fascinated by the concept of making these characters more mythic, and I'm fascinated by mythology and fairy tales and stories, like all ages stories that work on different levels, like Alice in Wonderland and Time Bandits and The Wizard of Oz. I always thought it was great that Alice in Wonderland had all these weird political references in it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that had references to like Benjamin Disraeli and things like that in there, and that children would never get. You know, but adults could be like, oh, that's interesting, and that Time Bandits has all these like Monty Python-esque references in there that only adults would get, but that would go over kids' heads. But still, it wasn't in such a way that it was insulting towards children. And you know, Rocky and Bullwinkle and Mad Magazine and the Muppet Show had that too. That it works on a certain level for kids and it works on a certain level for adults. So I thought if I can do that with Speed Racer, it would work really well. So I wanted to really layer it as much as possible, make it a really great and really fun and really layered all-ages comic. And that was part of the thinking in making it a legacy character, but also just making it something that a kid could really get a lot out of on repeated readings, you know, so that if they read, for example, the first one in Ancient Rome, there are just so many different layers to the text that you could just go back and read it and reread it and reread it, and it's just really, the text is so enriched and so layered that you could just you could just never get bored with it, because you could be like, oh, I didn't notice that. There are references, for example, in issue 1 to H.G. Wells' Invisible Man, because the main character is the main villain is an albino, and that's because the main villain in The Invisible Man is described as looking like an albino, and there's like so many. His name is Horatius because he's immortal, because that was actually the name of an ancient Roman charioteer, and so the main villain is a charioteer, and Horatius is also a reference to the Egyptian god Horus, who is the god of immortality, and this character is immortal. And so it just goes on and on. So it just linked up in a really perfect kind of way. And I thought, if I care about these characters so much, and if they have so many meanings, I'm never going to stop caring about them, and I'm going to invest so much of myself in it, that'll come through to the audience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
well,
so then I'm sorry. What?
Well, Arie, I wanted to interrupt you there, because I know that there are some people who want to call in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And I want to give them the opportunity. So, folks, if you're listening to the interview, and I know we've had a number of people coming in and out of the web chat.
Oh, sure.
Give us a call right now, 646-595-3135. Again, the number is 646-595-3135. And Arie, we had a question and a comment from the web chat. Let me see if I can scroll up here a little bit. Radio host asked if, I think I know the answer to this, but being a comic book writer, do you need to be both a writer and an artist, or do you write the story and is the art put in later by the publishing house?
That's a really good question. You don't need to. There's so many different methods, of writing a comic book script. If anyone's seen the movie American Splendor, Harvey Picar's method is to, he likes to sort of storyboard it out with stick figures, And I've done that. Not really with stick figures. I can draw. I started out as a cartoonist, and I started out just wanting to draw, and not really wanting to write. And I actually have drawn cartoons for Nickelodeon magazine and other magazines, and people who've known me my whole life find it really ironic that now I mostly write, instead of draw. But and sometimes I do draw the scripts out first, but it's very time consuming. Unless I absolutely have to, usually I just write it out like a stage play or a screenplay. But I write fairly elaborate stage directions to let the artist know is precisely what I have in mind. And usually they really appreciate that, because it gives them an idea of what I'm going for, and it cuts down on the amount of redrawing that they have to do.
Okay.
So we're on the same page.
Arie, we definitely have a call, and I think I know who this is. I believe this is Jewish librarian. Are you on the line?
I am. Hi, Bob. Longtime fan, first-time listener.
Yep. But glad to have you here. You have a question for Arie?
Yeah, it's more related to the book that he's got coming out, From Krakow to Krypton.
Okay.
Yep. It seems to me, from what there's quite a lot of Jewish cartoonists and quite a lot of women cartoonists.
Oh, yes.
But Jewish women cartoonists seem to be in short supply, even though there are so many Jewish women artists out there. I was wondering if you can comment from talking to Trina and maybe Leela, if you get a sense of what it is that's discouraging women Jewish artists from entering the field of cartooning.
I actually have to respectfully disagree. I don't know if I'd say that there are so few Jewish women cartoonists. And first of all, I'd like to just put some surnames to that. You said Trina and Leela. Trina Robbins and Leela Corman, I'm assuming you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can think of a few right off the top of my head. There's also Vanessa Davis and Lauren Weinstein and Karen Snyder and Miriam Libicki and a lot of these are friends of mine, so maybe it sounds like a conflict of interest there, but gosh, there are quite a few Jewish female cartoonists out there. Diane Newman, Sharon Rudolph.
Compared to the men, to the Jewish men, I think you'd say that the Jewish men cartoonists seem to outnumber the women by a lot.
They do. They do, but you know what? the reason for that is that I can't help comparing it to other branches of pop culture or media, which is to say that it's been a men's club for a while. It's been a boys' club for a while. Let's say stand-up comedy. It's been a boys' club for a while, and that's starting to change. You look at stand-up comedy. That's been a boys' club for a while. It's starting to change. You're just seeing people like Tina Fey and Sarah Silverman and Amy Poehler and folks like that who are coming in and making a lot of changes and making their voices heard, and that's great, but it's slowly happening, but it's happening. There's still the men outnumber the women quite a bit. You look at there's female film directors, but there aren't quite as many as male film directors. But it's happening. Do you know what I mean? There's certainly more female film directors than there were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'd say that it's certainly more female Jewish cartoonists than there are black female cartoonists out there. I can't think of that many. I can think of like Barbara Brandon and a couple of others, but I can't think of that many. I mean, until recently, comics was much more of a boys' club, and and there's Gail Simone and Devin Grayson and a few others, female comic book writers that I can think of right now who are making a splash, and it's becoming more and more. But and it's happening slowly. But thank goodness it's finally happening. You know what I mean? I do think that this is something I talk about in Crack Out of Krypton, which is, by the way, coming out from JPS in September 2008, I'm obligated to say, that for some reason a lot of the Jewish female cartoonists out there are working in the genre of autobiography. They're working in autobiographical comics, rather than superhero comics or other like sci-fi or things like that. Don't know exactly why that is. There are a few theories that have been brought forth on that, but that's something that I talk about more in the book.
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right. Well, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, Arie. Let me. So, I have to admit, I didn't realize you had another book. Tell us a little about the book now that you've gotten in the, as you put it, the requisite plug.
Oh, all right. The book from Crack Out of Krypton?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's interesting because it all kind of ties together. I mean, one of the reasons that I wrote Speed Racer Chronicles of the Racer, that I decided to make it this legacy character, if you want me to tie everything together in this neat little knot and this neat little bow, is that, my last name is Kaplan. And Kaplan, if you want to get ethnic about it, I guess, is Hebrew. It means Kohen or high priest. And that got me really thinking about what the fact that a lot of people's surnames originally used to refer to what the family used to do for a living. Like my family, it came from the Jewish tribe or the Jewish the part of the, I guess you could say the class, the caste, whatever. I don't know exactly the particular term. The Kohanim, the Jewish high priests. And so I thought, well, a lot of people who have a last name like Taylor or Silver or Gold or Chaplin, that might refer to what the family used to do for a living. And so I thought, what if Racer referred to what the family used to do for a living? And then I thought, well, what if the family was racers? You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
And so the whole family, that got me thinking about the concept of heritage and tradition. And so that's what the whole series is about. Now, that having been said, that seems to be a big trend in a lot of my work. And that's why the villain's immortal. And I guess in the end, a lot of my work is about history. Now, Crack Out of Krypton is obviously a book about history. It's quite possibly the most comprehensive book written on the history of Jews in the comics industry, because there are other books that have been written on that subject, but this one is one that covers every genre, not just superheroes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it covers superheroes, it covers sci-fi, it covers humor titles, it covers the underground comics movement, it covers independence, and it's incredibly ambitious, and it goes throughout the entire 70-plus year history of the medium. I interviewed people like, Stan Lee and Art Spiegelman and the late Will Eisner and Paul Levitz and Trina Robbins and Drew Friedman and Leila Corman and Chris Claremont and just tons of people, and Harvey P. Carr wrote the foreword, and I just got some amazing stories, just some really great anecdotes from people that you just wouldn't have expected. You know, Chris Claremont talks about his time on a kibbutz and how that influenced his writing of the X-Men, and some really great things that just people wouldn't have expected. A lot of people don't know that Chris Claremont's Jewish, you know. I talk about the origins of Mad Magazine and a lot of how Yiddish influenced Mad Magazine. And being a Mad writer myself and also having written a Tales from the Crypt story recently, I really feel like I'm part of that legacy, you know.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the book, Crack Out of the Krypton, comes out when?
It comes out in September 2008, so there's still a little while yet. And, of course, I also talk that the title refers to the fact that a lot of these Jews who created the comic book industry, like Siegel and Schuster, who created Superman, and Jack Kirby and Joe Simon and people like that, did have family that came from Eastern Europe. Not necessarily from Krakow, although some of them from like Joe Kubert did have family that came from Poland. And actually myself, my family did come from Krakow. So me being a comic book writer, you know, hey, I'm part of that lineage too. So you know, so right there's a line. But yeah, a lot of them came from Russia or Poland or Germany or some area.
Danny Fingeroth was on the show a few weeks ago talking about his book Disguised as Clark Kent, and it sounds like there's a little crossover there because he also talked about you know, a period of time when much of the comics industry was overrun with Jews. They couldn't work anywhere else, and you know, they brought a lot of that you know, with them. Some of the same ground but different, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's been definitely a spirit of friendly competition between the two of us, between Danny and I. We're good friends. And I don't even think I'd say competition, honestly, between the two of us, because we've definitely been helping each other out and supporting each other, promoting each other's books. We're doing a panel together in just over a week at New York Comic Con, where we're going to be having Jerry Robinson, the co-creator of The Joker, and Robin the Boy Wonder, and, you know, he's a famous political cartoonist as well. Jerry is someone also that I interviewed for both my books, Masters of the Comic Book Universe Revealed and From Krakow to Krypton, and he's going to be on the panel with us. And, you know, Jerry and Danny and I mean, our books are different enough that you can honestly buy both of them and get something different out of each one. You know, Danny's book concentrates more on the superhero genre and more on the superhero genre in the Golden Age and early Silver Age. And my book concentrates more on the medium as a whole and concentrates more on and he also analyzes the medium in a different way. And my book concentrates more on the medium as a whole and also concentrates more on chronologically sort of going through it almost like a documentary on paper. Okay.
Well, all right, let me give out the phone number again in case anyone's dying to call in. I know that the web chat's been a little active today. If you'd like to ask a question directly of Arie, the number to call is 646-595-3135, and that always comes with the caution that it only works if you're listening live. So let me remind you that we're doing this live on the afternoon of April the 9th, 2008. If you're listening to this as an archive or a download, I'm afraid you're too late. But if you'd like to give us a call, please do. And you know what? We've got a call. Hold on, Arie.
Yeah, you got it.
Hi, do you have a question for Arie Kaplan?
Hi, this is Robbie Musso. Hi, Arie Kaplan.
Now, Robbie, I'm afraid I don't, I'm unfamiliar with the,
I'm a Speed Racer fan, and I got the privilege of working on Speed Racer.
Now, who do I make this out to? Yeah. How you doing, Robbie?
Yeah. Hey, Arie. How's it going, man?
Hey, good. How you doing?
I'm good. Good. Just hanging around here, working and working, you know.
Yeah.
Robbie, I know you worked as an artist on the comic. Tell me about working with Arie, and then also on drawing the Immortal Speed Racer.
Yeah, Immortal for sure. Yeah, working with Arie was, a great experience. I'm still fairly new to the whole comic game, but Arie was just great to work with. You know, we exchanged ideas and information about the about the series and stuff, and it was just a good time. You know, I mean, it was amazing to be able to draw, something as monumental as Speed Racer.
Yeah.
And
so
Robbie, were you a Speed Racer fan as well?
Oh, I've been a Speed Racer fan my whole life. I grew up watching all the old school cartoons like Transformers and Voltron, and Speed Racer was running reruns around that time, but I was, definitely a fan.
And Robbie, what do you have coming up next after Speed Racer? Are you committed to this further into the future?
Well, right now I'm working on a couple of other projects for another company that's based in Canada. So right now we're hammering something out. Should be ready by the end of the year. But it's just in the works. I'm just keeping busy.
Very good. Well, you guys did a nice job on these books. They have a real unique look and feel to them. So
Thanks.
you should be,
Thank you.
Sure. Well, and was there anything else you wanted to ask Arie? You want to put him on the spot here, ask him a question?
No,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks, and it was just a really great experience, and what a privilege to be able to work on Speed Racer.
Great.
Just most people only dream of being able to work on something of that magnitude. So it was just really amazing to be able to be on it. That pretty much sums it all up.
All right. Well, Robbie, it was very nice, a pleasant surprise that you called, and we certainly appreciate hearing from you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, hey Robbie, I gotta add, I just saw issue 4 for the first time, all put together, and oh my God, you did such an amazing job on that.
Wow, thank you.
I've got to tell, I mean, that really just sends the series out in style. I mean, my God, I hate to gush, but I'm gushing. It's really good. And, I mean, it just, I got to tell you, Bob, I put, in the stage directions, I was actually too afraid that I was, over-directing Robbie at certain points, where I was like, I want this scene to look like a Jonah Hex comic from the 70s, and I want this scene to look like a romance comic, like a Simon and Kirby romance comic from the 50s, and he totally put all that in there.
Well,
he didn't even blink.
No, it was great direction. You explained exactly how you wanted to go with it.
Yeah.
And best of all, I mean, what really helped was that you also gave me all the references I needed too.
Yeah, I gave him tons. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything was right there. I didn't have to go hunting everything down just to find a picture of, what the, what you call it, the Indian wardrobes would be like.
Yeah, sure.
The Native American, and so I mean, you really hit the story really, really well too. I mean, it was really just such a new take on Speed Racer.
Thanks.
You just didn't rehash the same thing over and over again. So it was but it was still fun because that's what Speed Racer is. It's just a wacky, fun story about a guy racing his car, and all the antics that he gets into along the way.
Right. I just wanted it to be the most fun kids comic that could be, that a kid could read. And honestly, I did so much historical research. I mean, I watched so many westerns for Speed Racer number 4 alone, and I'm sure Robbie could tell, but you know what I mean. I put so much web reference of here's a still from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Here's a still from I don't know, a John Ford western. You know what I mean? And
yeah. Yeah,
well,
you really do.
I'm sorry. Robbie, I was just going to say I really appreciate your call.
Okay.
And wish you guys continued luck on this.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Right.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks Arie for for everything. It was just a good time, and hope we can do it again sometime.
Hey, thanks. I'd love to.
Okay.
Hey, here's to our Land of the Lost comic that I'm sure we'll do at some point.
All right. Hey, I'm game.
All right, guys.
All right. Thanks again,
Thanks,
guys.
Robbie.
Take care.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. We actually have another call for you. Hold on.
Sure.
Whoops. Way to go. There it is. Hi. You have a question for Arie Kaplan.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me? This is
Yeah.
Lola.
Hey, Lola.
Hi, how are you? I just have a question. It sounds very interesting, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to listen to your interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has a lot of historic information, which is very good, and it makes it it relates for everybody, so that's helpful. I was going to say, are you going to be attending the Big Apple Convention? Do you know about the Big Apple Convention that's in June 6th and 7th in Manhattan? Do you usually go to conventions?
I haven't attended the Big Apple Cons in the past, but I've been really thinking about going, and I might be going. I'm not entirely certain. I'm going a trip to LA right before that, so I don't have any firm plans to go, but I may be. And since I have Crack Out of Krypton coming out at the end of the summer, let's see, that's coming out in September, I'm going to be promoting it a lot during the summer, so I very well might be going to Big Apple Con. I'll probably check out my website, which is ariekaplan.com. That's ARIEKAPLAN.com. And I'll probably be updating it all throughout the next few months and be posting information about different con appearances. I know I'm going to be going to San Diego Comic-Con, and I'll be at New York Comic-Con in a couple weeks.
Oh, okay. All right, yes. There's a Comic Con, and then there's the Big Apple Con. There's two different ones in Manhattan. I've only been to the one because my fiancé, he knows so much about this comic books, and he has... he's a little bit older. I won't mention that, but yeah, it's nostalgic for him. But me, I get to, it's like I'm reliving. It's like I've lived longer than I have because you have all this information that he never had before. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
The information that he had and plus the information I have, he has Superman and all this other stuff that he has, which is good. I get to keep an eye on it. I don't sell it. It's very valuable. Very valuable when it comes to comics and everything. Now it's not. Of course, we know it's different. But, if you have like a Batman #1, forget about it,
Right.
Even if you had it, you would have to restore it and have it in mint condition, you understand? So I'm glad to listen to you, and thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
Thanks very much for calling, Lola. And Arie, as Lola disconnects her, I will tell you that she was kind enough to put your the URL for your website into the web chat. So as you gave it out, she typed it in, and I'll repeat it: www.ariekaplansolid.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lola. And then Jewish librarian who called us earlier put in what I assume to be his URL, which I think actually mentioned you today, Arie. It's http://jewishcomics.blogspot.com. So, we appreciate all of our callers today calling in. We've just got a couple more minutes left, so I'll give the number one more time. I don't know if we'll have time to get anybody else in. It is 646-595-3135, and we're talking to Arie Kaplan about his work on Speed Racer and his previous book, Masters of the Comic Book Universe Revealed, and his upcoming book, From Krakow to Krypton. I wanted to take a minute and ask you about Mad Magazine.
Yes.
That's the kind of gig that teenagers dream of, and you actually got it. How did that come about?
Oh, okay. Well, I was actually an intern for Mad in college, and that just happened by random. That was just sort of one of those things where, both with Mad and Speed Racer, I'm not a particularly religious person, although I did just write a book on Jews and comics. But there are certain things that have happened for me career-wise where I thought, oh, this is definitely destiny. And one of them is writing for Mad Magazine, where I just thought from the time I was a little kid I was obsessed with Mad, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to be working for Mad someday, no doubt, whether it's drawing for them or writing for them or what. And it was, when I was a kid, everyone at school always predicted that would happen, and everyone always said I looked like Alfred E. Newman, and I and so I tried out for an internship there, and I got it really quickly. I had to submit jokes. You had to audition for an internship there by submitting jokes and things like that, and so after that, but it wasn't like it was so easy to get writing work there afterwards. I mean, that did give you contacts. But then to get a foot in the door, you just had to keep pitching them stuff until you sold something, and that took forever. Because they have a very specific writing style and a very specific that you have to master, and a very specific type of there's a very specific type of joke that they like, you know. There's a very specific type of voice that you have to master for the magazine. And so once I got that first piece in there, that helped get a foot in the door for other pieces. So some of the pieces that you might have seen in Mad that I've done, the most famous one is Gulf Wars Episode 2, Clone of the Attack, which is a poster that's popped up all over the internet. And it's been on Fox News and in the national press, and you can also see it on my website. And it's a parody of the Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones poster with George W. Bush and Condoleezza Rice as Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, respectively, and the late Saddam Hussein as Jango Fett, and George Bush Sr. as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and things like that. And I also did a piece called "What If Chris Rock Performed at a Bar Mitzvah," and "What If M. Night Shyamalan directed the SpongeBob movie," and "What If Paris Hilton wrote the Scarlet Letter." Lots of what-ifs involving celebrities. And for a while I was writing a lot of hip-hop pieces, so I was like Mad's unofficial, or maybe Mad's official hip-hop expert, which is funny if you actually have ever seen a picture of me. Which is not to say I don't like hip-hop, but I mean, I look like Howdy Doody, and then let's see, I did a one piece. I've done a bunch of comic book related pieces lately because I've had that on the brain. I did one piece relatively recently called No Action Comics: The Adventures of Paris, which was done like a year and a half ago, when Paris Hilton decided to take a vow of chastity, and so Paris Hilton as Supergirl in Action Comics, and she's got like a giant chastity belt, utility belt, and Travis Barker sneaking up behind her with a giant key. And so lots of if that could be seen as like having any recurring themes in my work for Mad, lots of pieces involving hip-hop because I really like hip-hop, and lots of pieces involving celebrities.
All right.
So,
well, as we're kind of coming to the end here, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, and wish you a lot of luck with all the projects you've got coming up. I guess you said that the fourth issue of the Speed Racer comic is out now. Is there any plans for another series after this, or will that depend on the movie in some way?
I don't know. I don't know. I've got ideas for a follow-up mini. I guess that depends on, if IDW and Speed Racer Enterprises want me to do a follow-up mini. So I guess we'll have to just wait and see. Meanwhile, if I can just very briefly mention a couple of other comics I have coming up. Can I do that?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I do have Cartoon Network Action Pack number 24, which I believe also comes out today. I have a Ben 10 comic story called Special Defects, about a crazy special effects wizard that goes up against Ben 10. That comes out, and I wrote that. And I have a Tales from the Crypt story, and Tales from the Crypt number 6, that I think comes out at some point this summer. I'm not sure exactly when. It's called Jumping the Shark. And it's about a reality TV show producer who likes to torture his contestants, and he gets murdered and comes back from the dead and can't stop pitching lousy reality show ideas. And so that should be coming out soon.
All right. Well, Arie, again, thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Bob.
All right. Well, take it easy.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. You can pick up Speed Racer comics by Arie Kaplan, our guest, at your neighborhood comic book shop. Or you can order the collection online at Amazon.com or at MrMedia.com, MRmedia.com. And Arie Kaplan's book, Masters of the Comic Book Universe Revealed, is available in the same places. I suspect you can probably go also there and pre-order From Krakow to Krypton, his next book, which will be out in September. Now, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with Billy Bob Thornton, Cheryl Hines from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Anna Gunn from Breaking Bad and Deadwood, Milo Ventimiglia from Heroes, David Fury, producer of 24, Bill Prady, creator of The Big Bang Theory, and, of course, Stephan Pastis of Pearls Before Swine. You can also read full transcriptions on that site. Please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen to us on Blog Talk Radio, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, or iTunes. And come back again April 16th, 1 p.m. Eastern, when my live guest will be Bill Adair, editor of the PolitiFact.com website. Thanks so much for listening and participating in the show today. Talk to you again real soon. And now, I know this is what you want to hear. This is why you stayed till the end.
Here comes Speed Racer. He's a demon on wheels. He's a demon and he's gonna be chasing after someone. He's gaining on you, so you better look alive. He's busy revving up the powerful Mach 5. And when the odds are against him and they're dangerous work to do, he bet your life, Speed Racer, see it through. Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go! He's off and flying as he guns a car around the track. He's jamming down the pedal like he's never coming back. Adventure's waiting just ahead. Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer.